Hi everybody, my name's Rowena and I'm the Head of Creative Strategy here at RocketMill. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of bravery in creativity. I'm going to start by defining what brave creative is. So brave creative is something that provokes a reaction. This one I think will probably split the room. It's something that gets people talking, whether they're for it or against it. It's something that isn't likely to be measured using traditional metrics like CPA or sales. It's something that you're probably a little bit nervous to speak to your CEO about, particularly if he's a bit of a dinosaur. Bit brave. But it's something that, despite all of the above, you're likely to push for anyway. So why do we struggle to be brave? Well, I put this question to our creative team, and bar the kind of logistical factors like a lack of time or budget, everything that they said seemed to have something in common: fear. Now, this fear manifests itself in various ways. It could be a fear that the idea is going to be rejected. It might be fear that it fails to meet the KPIs, or it could be fear of losing customers or your job. But fear is fundamental to creativity. In her book, Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert says that fear and creativity are conjoined twins, saying that creativity cannot take a single step forward without fear marching right alongside it. Too often, we nip our creative ideas in the bud because we let fear get in the way. The fear never goes away completely. I can absolutely vouch for that right now. But you have to learn to embrace it, because bravery feels so much better, and you can't do one without the other. So why else should you be brave? The world and the web are a busy place, saturated with boring, useless, and false information. So you have to do something different, because it will enable you to stand out and to potentially excel. Bulb are a great example of this. Thanks to their colloquial language, simple website, and their app, they stand out in an arguably boring market. These things in silo might not seem brave, but they're doing something different, and it's working for them. Despite only launching 3 years ago, they grew their customer base last year by 700,000 and now own 3.1% of the energy market. Another reason to be brave is that it allows you to identify and defend your values. Bill Bernbeck said, if you stand for something, you'll always find somebody for you and some people against you. If you stand for nothing, you will find nobody against you and nobody for you. Being bold with what you stand for enables you to build an engaged following and worry less about the opinions of those outside of your demographic. This works really well for Greggs. From their vegan sausage roll to the sign and the nativity scene, their campaigns split opinion. But thanks to bravery, a clear brand identity, and lots of audience research, they're working. The vegan sausage roll sold out soon after launch. The brand serve over 6 million customers a week, and the foundation distributes £3 million a year to local communities. And finally, you have to be brave because pushing the boundaries is fun. Business as usual isn't just dull and monotonous, but it can be dangerous. Only 30 of the original companies that made up the FTSE 100 when it launched 35 years ago still exist. You have to teach yourself to fear continuity more than change, because continuity means complacency, and complacency means danger in a market full of challenger brands. Brands like Monzo, who is the fastest growing digital bank, has just overtaken First Direct as Britain's best rated lender and is now preparing for its launch in the US. So now you know what brave creative is and why you should do it, I'm going to tell you how. So words like bravery and creativity may have connotations of spontaneity, just won't cut it here. Brave creative comes from planning, preparation, and your willingness to fight fear at every step. This starts with provoking the right emotion with your creative, one that reflects your goals, speaks to your audience, and encourages action. Jonah Berger, in his book Contagion, says this isn't as simple as using a positive or a negative emotion, but that some emotions are more motivating than others. These can be good or bad, they just have to make people want to talk about your campaign, share it, and act on it. For example, if you encourage feelings of comfort or contentment with your creative, you might make people feel good, but they're unlikely to want to share it. Make them laugh, however, and they'll soon be talking to everyone about it. Suggesting an idea that provokes a motivating emotion takes bravery, but it could pay off, so ditch the comfortable ideas and rally for the sexy ones. To craft brave creative, you also have to be brave with your measurement. If you're a marketeer, be brave and suggest upfront that qualitative metrics are used alongside quantitative ones. This could include the types of press coverage or how brand sentiment has changed. If you're a CEO, let your team break free from transaction-based targets. Be brave, get behind qualitative metrics. Brave doesn't have to mean expensive, so you're not necessarily putting your business at stake here. Next up, minimize the amount of cooks. Everyone has an opinion. You just have to work out whose matters the most. Differentiate between who has to have a say and who would like to have a say, and if the room's getting a bit crowded, politely ask some of the nice-to-haves to leave. Once you've picked your judging panel, get a steer from them at the start on what absolutely will and won't fly, no matter how vague. A client recently told me to go 70% bulb with their tone of voice, and it's actually quite a useful brief. Understanding your audience is critical to Brave Creative, and you can find out how, because I've done it in another talk that you can watch here. Market research allows you to identify who your audience is, where there's potential to grow, and who you don't need to worry about. This step is absolutely crucial. You cannot create a risky, attractive, or standout campaign if you don't know who your audience is and how they might react. If you skip this, you're not being brave, you're being reckless. When you've worked out who you care about, go bold with your message. If it falls flat outside your target demographic, that's fine. But if you offend your customers, you're in deep trouble. And finally, to be brave, you have to accept upfront that the idea won't and shouldn't be right first time. Ask for feedback and leave time to action it. As with the stakeholders, it's important that you're selective with who you're getting feedback from, and you give them a steer on what to comment on. Otherwise, you'll be overwhelmed to the point of abandonment. Bring together a select group of people who are not close to the campaign, ideally within the demographic, and then they can bring a fresh, relevant perspective to it. If it's not quite there, don't panic. If you've left time for the amends, the changes won't be a problem. And now that you've crafted something amazing, you've only got one last hurdle to get over, and that's putting it out into the world. This is where your bravery will be really tested, so imagine the feeling when it pays off. It worked for Foster's, who became the shopper's first choice of beer following this ad's launch. It worked for Always, whose Like a Girl video generated over 90 million views and 4.4 billion media impressions in the first 3 months. And it worked for Cadbury's, whose guerrilla campaign is still cited as one of the most memorable of all time. So now it's your turn to take a leap and work out what bravery will do for you. Thank you.